ASAP Rock!
Ha 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 ha. Fake laugh. Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. It's time for an album review. ASAP Rocky, Live, Love, ASAP. This guy is a New York rapper who right now is blowing up on a very small body of work. Like a lot of you guys, I'm sure my first exposure to this dude was through the song and music video Purple Swag. And the song at the time when I first heard it, I thought it had a really good beat, had a good visual aesthetic, some style, I guess. I guess I was looking for more lyricism, maybe. But now that I have this whole album to listen to, I have kind of learned that lyricism, spitting fire, isn't really the point of this LP. Now, despite the fact that this kid is from New York, he doesn't really sound like a New York rapper to me. Not traditionally, anyway. I would have never guessed this guy was from the East Coast if he didn't bring it up in his music so often. I'm finding that this dude is influenced by a really wide variety of sounds in hip-hop, and it's because guys like Rocky, his ASAP crew, the producers he works with, they are musicians in the age of the internet, where what you're influenced by is what you're finding on the internet, not just your local music scene or something like that. If you want to get into Southern hip-hop, you can immerse yourself in it without even living in the South. And there are shades of that on this album for me, in the terminology he uses with words like trill and lame for UGK. And there are some beats on here like Brand New Guy where the really slow pace and the heavy synths and the snappy snare drums remind me of something Lex Luger would have produced. Brick Squad! And there's another thing about this album that kind of reminds me of West Coast hip-hop. Just all these really feel-good party raps that make me think of Snoop Dogg in the 90s. But most importantly, I see ASAP Rocky as kind of a part of a trend happening in underground hip-hop right now, where you have artists chasing after these really subtle, shoegazy, kind of lo-fi, ethereal sounds in their beats and their production, combined with a very laid-back and kind of chillaxed flow. Two recent artists pushing this style are actually featured on this tape. One of them, Main Attractions. They have a new LP out called 808s and Dark Grapes. It's a free album. I've listened to it. I think it's worth checking out. And Space Ghost Perp, who has a new LP out, mixtape, that came out earlier this year, I wasn't too huge on either, just because it felt so lo-fi, so flimsy, kind of inconsistent. The dude is even less lyrical than Rocky. And I gotta say, Lil B, I think, has an influence on this guy. A little bit, if any. He definitely has a lot of repetitive catchphrases that he puts out there. He references Lil B in his music, and the dude who produces most of the beats for this album kind of came into fame, Clams Casino, by producing beats for Lil B. To me, Clams Casino and the other producers on this album are the unsung heroes. I think if this album had been changed up beat-wise and you were to just throw Rocky on a bunch of boom baps, it would sound a little generic. With these beats behind Rocky on this album, this thing sounds like one long, never-ending drug coma brought on by lots of weed and cough syrup. There are a lot of weed rappers out there these days. Smoke DZA, Wiz Khalifa, also Currency too, but this guy is the only dude I've heard whose hip-hop music actually kind of puts me into the high. You know what I mean? The sounds and the flows, just the overall aesthetic of this LP tries to capture the feeling of being high and put it into sound. Like I said, I'm not really in love with the lyrics on this album. They're not terrible, they just kind of fall to the wayside for me a lot of the time. Especially since Rocky repeats a lot of the same stuff over and over, just he kind of throws it in different combinations. What he's smoking, who he's smoking it with, what he's drinking it out of, the East Coast, how he's a pretty motherfucker, what he's wearing, what his hair's like, gold teeth. There's some violence on here. There's some tough guy shit, some lyrics about women and sex. There's some spots on here like the first track and the last track where Rocky gets kind of personal, starts rapping and mentioning other people in the rap game. But for the most part, the sound of Rocky's voice, his inflection, his cadence, his flow, I don't really read into it too deeply. He just kind of becomes this guide for me, this dude that I'm following through all these hazy, intoxicating beats. He punctuates the thick, heavy atmospheres surrounding these beats. Pretty much all the instrumentals here have spacey synths. They're set at slow paces. A lot of the lyrics are pitch shifted into much lower registers. There will be disembodied vocal samples floating in the background. And the bass on some of these songs, especially on the song Bass, is huge, nasty, just rumbling. And to be honest, that beat on that song Bass, it's one of the best rap beats I've heard in a while. And beats on tracks like Leaf and What's Up, they're kind of eerie and beautiful. I mean, on this album, I really think Clamps Casino has outdone himself. Because the production on this thing, it sounds so great, and yet I really can't compare it to much of anything else. Maybe I could liken it a little bit to some of the beats on that Shabazz Palace's album, but even that I think is a little bit of a long shot. There are some negatives to this album, just to be quick about them, because I don't think there are that many. Some of the features on this LP, MC-wise, are just not as good as Rocky. They don't fit into the vibe of this album for me. Coming on too strong in this whoa, 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 chill the hell out atmosphere. Track 10 on here, that song's titled Kissin' Pink and features A$AP Ferg, who I guess is singing on this song. And I can see what they're doing. The beat is great, and that singing vocal kind of comes in. It sounds kind of like they're doing a Nate Dogg thing, but his vocal is off. It is so off. I love most of the songs on this LP. It's mostly because of the beats on this album, though, you know, I don't take anything away from Rocky. He has chosen to work with such inventive producers for this release. I'm feeling a strong 7 to a light 8 on this. Enjoyed the hell out of it. But what do you think about it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Why? And what do you think I should review next? Anthony Fantano, A$AP Rocky, forever.